Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my amazing interviews. Have you ever considered what might happen if you stop paying for things that you're told that you have to pay for? Something like, I don't know, your council tax, for example. There seems to be a lot of people challenging the council tax at the moment. Is it possible to do that? After all, there doesn't seem to be a contract that you've signed for it, and you can't cherry pick the services you want. Well, I'm pleased to bring to the channel a gentleman who is doing exactly that, and he has found a unique way of doing it. So I thought it would be only fair to have a listen. His name is Tim Davies, and he joins me now. Hello, Tim.
Hi, Richard.
Now you're your average man in the street,
Yes.
going about your daily life, and you've, like most people, got an expensive council tax with services you've not necessarily asked for, and presumably, like everybody else, you've been told you've got to pay it come what may, even though you haven't negotiated this contract from this corporation.
that's true. Uh,
But you got in touch with me because you said, I found a way in which I don't have to pay.
yeah. What it is, Richard? Well, I'll go through the
Please do.
timeline of what I actually did. I stopped paying council tax in 2021. Now, because I'm on benefits, I only pay 20% of the council tax bill. Well, it's a demand.
Mm.
Now, I had stopped paying, like I said, in 2021. I did start doing a lot of research, things like peacekeepers, sovereign empowerment, and I started contacting the council, telling them that, like you said, I've no contracts with you, and I feel that it's not an obligation. And there's several pieces of legislation that actually prove this. But uh, what I did after all the research, I'd actually claimed under a thing called direct debit indemnity. I reclaimed in the about 2 years ago money from my energy supplier. Uh,
Right.
Anything that you've played through a direct debit, if you actually get in touch with your bank, you can actually, if you've got a reason that's good enough, you can reclaim all these payments. So I did that with my electricity. Well, they say supplier, but it's a broker really.
Yes.
And what I did the same process with council tax, and I actually got in touch with my bank. I did it on the online banking, and I, I got onto there. And at first, you're speaking to a bot, but you get to speak to a real person eventually. And a lot of people think that they have to get all the proof of the payments. But what I did, the bank actually told me they could go back so far. So I bluffed them and I told them, I know you're lying because I used to work in a bank. And suddenly, then they found all these payments. So I got the bank to do the work for me.
Yes.
Now, what happened over about a month was me getting in touch with the bank, them telling me lies, making excuses. But I kept on phoning them. I phoned them 8 days straight, and they must have been sick and tired of hearing from me.
Yes.
And and obviously, uh, the after 28 days, they buckled, and I actually got all the money back that I'd paid since 2014 when I first started paying council tax, and I'd stopped paying since 2021. So in effect, I'd never paid any council tax.
Right. Oh, okay.
But obviously, it's not as simple as people think. The banks, when you do this process, or say direct debit indemnity claim, the banks will lie to you. They'll do anything they can to put you off. And I started a Telegram group called Council Tax Refunds, and most of the people there have basically been lied to by the banks. But I've told them to hold out. Uh, the banks will try and push you onto the ombudsman, which is basically they'll always come out in favour of the banks. It's an illusion to make you think that you've got some form of redress.
Right.
But obviously, I got this money back, and I thought, well, I can do something here. I can help other people to get the money back. So I did a few videos on YouTube, and and as you know, Richard, with having a YouTube channel, the complete with me, they always turning the viewing figures down. I mean, this I know it says it's been watched 12,000 times, but I know in reality it's a lot more than that. But one woman contacted me to tell me that she'd got £30,000 back.
Wow.
I mean,
From having paid for years and years, presumably.
that's right. 30 years she'd been paying council tax. Luckily she'd been under the same council for 30 years. Obviously, if you lived in several different boroughs, you've got several different claims because different councils. But it was great to actually think that I'd helped people.
Oh, absolutely. So just take me through that thing then, the direct debit indemnity. You said that you needed to have some valid reason
Right.
to trigger it. So,
Well, what you have to do virtually first is just put the claim in with the bank, and at first they will ask the reason, and basically, I at first you don't really need to give a reason,
hmm,
but I just said uh, council tax is not an obligation. Now, what they will do, the bank, is they have uh, 14 working days for the council to get back to them with proof that your claim is invalid. Now, they will never do that because, for a start, they're snowed under, and but the banks will try and drag things out. You've got to keep on top with the banks and tell them that they've got protocol that they have to follow.
so you go to the bank and you say to them, these payments are invalid because there was no
But
obligation.
the payments were made in error.
The payments were made in error, so they shouldn't have been taken
That's right.
from, because you weren't paying them direct debit, they take them from you.
That's right.
So these basically you're saying, these have been taken in error,
Yeah.
and therefore I'd like a refund. Thank you very much. And they go, oh, okay, let's investigate.
Yeah.
So they go to the council, and effectively, are they saying, have you taken these in error? And the council probably is
That's right.
going, no, of course not.
Yeah.
And then, so do they rebut does the bank come back and say, no, you're wrong, we can't give you the money back at that initial stage?
Well, there's a lot of people who actually said that the council hadn't got back or anything like that, but they just said uh, we can't do your claim. It's uh, just giving them excuses to try and put them off.
Right. So how do you persuade them to carry on?
Well, you have to make them follow protocol.
Right.
What
And how do you do that?
Well, there's methods that I've shown in my videos are all done in a step by step, simple process to follow. There's a page that I'll take people to in my update that will show you all the protocol that banks have to follow regarding a direct debit indemnity claim. Obviously,
Right.
if they don't follow that protocol, you have to hold them to account on that. Uh, that's well, my bank actually had to pay me compensation as well, Richard, because they'd not paid in my refund in the specified time. But
Right. Oh, okay. So you go through the process, which we can direct people to your YouTube channel so they
yeah,
can look at that and follow. And how long does this take, roughly?
well, it took me a month, well, 28 days. But in reality, it should take other people. If the protocol is followed, it should take 14 working days. That,
To get the refund?
yes. But,
Wow. I
but,
mean, that's amazing.
well, listen to this, Richard. When I did my direct debit indemnity claim against uh, my EDF, my energy broker, I that money went after that I made the claim went into my bank the day after.
So what? So okay. So that's fascinating. So how? So this direct debit could be a useful loophole. So we should just say this is only if you paid your bill by direct debit.
That's right.
If you've gone in with a check to the council or you've paid in cash, this system won't work for you.
No,
But it's because effectively the council have gone and taken the money
that's right.
and there's no obligation for them to take the money, and so they've been hoisted by their own petard, shall we say. So how do you work that same system with the energy supplier?
Basically, just say the pay. All I said was the payments were made in error, and they just gave me the money back. It's
So, what, no questions?
no questions at all.
So you went.
What people need to know, Richard, though, what that money that was taken, that I got refunded, it will be added to your future bill. Now, it won't matter to me, Richard, because I've not paid my electric bill for over 2 years. I've not been cut off, as you can see, the lights on.
Mm,
Uh, but they won't. People seem to think they will cut you off. They might be able to cut you off if you've got a smart meter because you
right.
can do it remotely. They did that with me, but I won't go into that. I managed to get my electric. But it's the same with the council tax. They will add the money that you've got back to your future bill. But as I'm not paying, it doesn't really matter.
Okay. So let me just unpack that then. Um, so let's just say, for the sake of argument, it's you get back. Just say £1,000. It could be a lot more, as you indicated. Then the energy company or the council will say, okay, you've had that payment back. Now your next bill comes in. We're going to add £1,000 to that, which you've had back, but we want it. Thank you. Plus whatever your energy bill is or your council tax. But you're then saying, well, I'm not paying it anyway because where's the obligation? And as long as you've set up the direct debit, then presumably there's nothing they can do.
Well, there is, and obviously, what the energy suppliers, like most, in the instance of every corporation, you'll find out like when did you ever sign any
Mm,
contract with your energy supplier? No, there's no contract. Uh, a lot of them, what they do, because they don't really want to take you to court, because they would lose. There's no contract. Now,
yes.
they usually sell the debt onto a third party, bailiffs or something like that, and they've got even less chance of getting the money because
There's no liability.
sorry,
Yeah. There's no obligation.
that's right. But
So
and
so oh so that's so yeah. So I mean, this is I think what people are struggling to get their head round, because we've been so brainwashed. Because normally you buy certain services, and you pay for what you use. Let's say you buy apples
yeah,
and you eat the apples, and that's that. With utilities, it is somewhat different.
well,
You've already paid for most of it anyway.
what it is, Richard, people don't know. I mean, there's a man in Zimbabwe, and he built this. It's like what Tesla did. Electricity, like the big pylons that they've got
Mm,
everywhere.
mm.
They are actually harvesting energy from the ether, just like Tesla said. And this man in Zimbabwe has he's got cars that basically run off frequency televisions, and the Zimbabwean government tried to poison him because obviously there's big implications for companies losing a hell of a lot of money if any of his stuff actually does get patented.
Yes,
But
absolutely. Yes. So I won't get too into that, because
yeah,
that's
yeah,
dodgy territory for
yeah,
YouTube, of course.
yeah,
So essentially, but what we do know is these energy companies are, as you said at the beginning, they're effectively brokers.
yes. They don't
So
see you supply. They don't supply you with anything.
right, and so we're paying them constantly for something they've already done once. If they've brokered the energy, you don't do that with your car insurance, do you? They sort of set you up with a car insurance, you pay a premium, they get their kickback, whatever it is, but that's a one-off payment. You're not constantly being by your car insurance, your car insurance broker is not constantly the one that takes the money.
I mean, I haven't got a problem. This like I do pay. I've got a service charge from me with involved with me rent. I pay that. I've got a SIM card contract. I pay that. But and my broadband. These are things that I've agreed to that I don't mind paying for. But things like council tax and energy, I'm not going to pay for it. I'm not.
Right.
But as regards uh, council tax, what people need to get into their heads really, there's no point communicating with the council, sending them uh, emails, letters, because it will make no difference at all. All they will do is basically try and enforce this alleged debt, whatever you say. So what I did, I just waited for the summons to come, and I've actually had two summons. Well, they're actually fake summons.
I was going to say, these aren't from the actual court, are they? They're
Oh,
just the council printing them on council
they
paper.
won't admit this, Richard. They actually
No.
say the magistrate's court. But if you actually, on the day that you're actually at the court, if you ask them what court you're in, they won't have a. You're not listed, and you're not listed on court serve. It's because it's purely an administrative court. The council won't admit to this,
Mm.
but by actually uh, doing this, they're actually breaking a law, the Local Government Act 1888, which states no council uh, is allowed to act as a court, and the courts are not allowed to give the council permission to act as a court. So I mean, there's a lot of other things that they're lying about, but when, they're not just going to roll over. Council tax has been around for 30 years. There's a lot of people try to break the house of cards apart, and it will happen, Richard, and I think it's going to happen very, very quickly, because most of the councils are broke now. They're bankrupt.
Yes. Yes. No, I think you're right. I mean, everything is crumbling. The fact that more and more people are talking about it, you can find YouTube videos about it everywhere, and brave souls are challenging the system, quite rightly, because if there's fraud being done, you're not, even if you join the legal system, you're not allowed to join in with a fraudulent system.
Yeah, I mean, what they did when I didn't first I didn't attend my first hearing, and they granted a liability order against me, and I I did I didn't pay anything, but what happened, because I'm on benefits, they contacted the DWP, and basically I was told that I'd have a certain amount taken out my benefits every week. So it was a nominal amount, but I begrudge paying anything that I don't feel's right.
Mm.
So I got in touch with the DWP. I spoke to a few people, and the first few people I spoke to, they weren't sympathetic. So you've got to keep trying. And finally, I got to spoke to a woman who was sympathetic. And what I told her, basically, I said, look, uh, what what evidence have you got that this alleged debt is real? And she said, well, the council have told us that we've got a liability order. So I said, well, have you seen it with your own eyes? And I told her, I said, the council will lie to you. So on the evidence of this, the woman suspended, this is in April, Richard, the woman suspended my attachment of benefits, and it's still suspended now. So the council obviously haven't got back, but this woman, I told her that the council will send her a printout with nothing from the court and exactly what she got. And because she got that, she actually believed me, because I told her what had happened before
Yes.
it did happen. But I've been because of the money I got from the direct debit indemnity claim, I also got a second fake summons, because there was other money, the money that I'd reclaimed. This fake summons was not even signed, but this time I decided to actually go to the court. Now I am known. I mean, I'm not exactly easy to miss, Richard, and they know me in the court because I've been a few times, and I I've been there. Generally, they have one security guard for the council tax hearings. Now, I put it up on my Telegram group and several other Telegram groups that I needed people to support me to, and there was about 8 people came, and as soon as they got there, Richard, there was 5 security guards there. They've been tipped off. There are infiltrators on Telegram, and
Yes.
they've been tipped off, but they wouldn't. There's a public gallery, and people are allowed to go in to witness what happens. Now, I've been in several times. They have to search you, but they made me switch my phone off. Now, they're not really allowed to do that, but I wanted to go in there and record, because there's no evidence. It's not a court of record, you see.
Mm.
You can't get a court transcript. So I wanted to record what happened. So they made me switch my phone off. But what happened, this woman, we didn't realise at the time, she breezed through as if she wasn't with us, and she went in, and she got in the court. Now, what happened, my friend, who they only allowed one person in with me, my friend, he switched his phone on just before the proceedings started. And luckily did, because it was a very good recording. What happened, Richard, when the magistrates were saying, I just said, I demanded a trial by jury, which is my entitlement. I've not been convicted of anything. I should have the right to defend myself. Now, when I said that, I'm certain in my own mind, as were all my, the other two people, that the magistrates would have actually allowed me that. But the legal advisor, he spun round in his chair so quick to speak to the magistrates, and basically they give him loads of reasons why they couldn't give me a trial by jury. So then I went on to say, I quote the Bill of Rights, which no fine or forfeiture before conviction. And as soon as I started to say that, they just cut me dead and granted the liability order. But what they can't do though, Richard, I've got one attachment of benefits that's suspended, and they can only have one at one time. Now they can't get any more money from me. It'd take me 7 years to pay off what I reclaimed back of them. And by the time that happens, I would have racked up 7 years of arrears of, council tax. It's actually, I would actually tell anyone who's on benefits to actually, even if they get an attachment of benefits, it will be less than you are paying in council tax. So you can't lose. You can't lose. But it's very, very hard because everything is corrupt. If you actually try and pick everything apart, one body, like the council tell you to go to someone, the court will tell you to go to somewhere, and it's like a merry-go-round, and you actually find out nothing. The best thing to do is only start the process of acting against these unlawful debts when you get your fake summons and when you get your fake liability order.
Right.
And for people who are working, if your employer gets an attachment of earnings, that doesn't have to be complied with. It's a lot of employers might be very weak and they'll just agree with it. But there's some that you'll get on well with your employer and they will just say, no, I'm not gonna agree to it. So, bear in mind, and most people, if they actually don't own property, an attachment is the only way they can get any money out of you, Richard.
Yes.
The only way. They can do a charging order on you if you've got any property. But again, it all comes down to a liability order that doesn't exist. And also, Richard, the form to draw up a liability order was abolished in 2003. So how do they actually draw up these?
It's very curious, isn't it, that the legislation itself is actually working against them, and they don't seem to abide to it. You'd think that they would have corrected all those things and not abolished, or these sort of things that they're pretending hasn't happened. It is very strange. But and the more people who know about this can use these tools to stand their ground.
I mean, one of the things is because they're an administrative court, Halsbury's laws declare that all administrative courts they have no authority at all. It's you give the only power they have is the power that you give them.
Yeah, I remember reading that and made a very short video on that because somebody sent that that statement that you've just said there to me about Halsbury's law and the administrative courts having no power at all. It's all. I mean, the thing is, it's such a psyop, isn't it? People have been brainwashed into thinking this.
Everything is about fear, Richard. People have got fear of the bailiffs coming, being taken to what they think is a genuine court. But what it is, Richard, this is the biggest war in the history of humanity. You've got to lose the fear. If people all stop paying the council tax, they can keep the money aside if they're a bit bothered, and pay it later if they're that frightened. But the thing is, the councils are already on their knees. I think the system's going to crumble. But if you can do that, the same with your energy, just put the money aside if you're that really bothered. But we have to win this war, Richard. And if we can break the system, maybe we can get a common law system implemented in its place.
Absolutely. And we should say none of this is legal advice. We're not legal experts. This is not advice that has been given professionally. This is just an experience that you've had and you're sharing that with me. It's just that's my little indemnity there. But you're quite right. A sensible suggestion for anybody paying any of these things or not paying any of these things or testing the system to see whether they ought to or not is to have the money available, but just keep it on the side.
Yeah.
And hopefully you won't need to hand it over to fraudulent bodies. But it's there in case things go wrong, or you suddenly think, actually, do you know what? I'm too scared or whatever, and you can stop the process.
Oh yeah,
if you so wish. But you're quite right that we do need to challenge the status quo, and that fear is very much the instrument. I mean, my dad told me in the 70s, and he was an aerial expert. He used to make aerials for a living. He said to me when the TV detector vans, the advert came on the television, and he looked at that and he said, "This is bonkers." He said, "They can't detect your television. It's a receiver, not a transmitter."
They can't do it today, Richard.
Well, it's even more difficult now, not in the way that they claim anyway. I mean, they might do through data and sneaky things like listening to your one of these little Alexa type things, but they can't do it by the vans going around with it was all fear.
Everything same, and also the thing is, to actually get a warrant for TV license, they have to have proof. Where did that proof?
Where does it come from?
And just don't open the door.
I mean, to be honest though, I got rid of my TV license. I got rid of my television. But and I've seen these people who have had troubles with it. But I went on, found the website, filled in a form, said I don't want it. I think they rang me up and they said, "Are you sure you don't want it? Have you got a television?" I said, "No, I've got rid of it. Don't need it. I've got rid of the app for the BBC. I've got rid of it. I just think it's not for me. Thank you very much." And they said, "Well, that's fine. We'll ring you in 2 years' time just to see if you want one. If there's any changes, let us know." I said, "Fine." They did ring me 2 years later, and I said, "No, thank you." And that was it. And that must have been some 5 or 6 years ago, and I've never heard anything from them.
I mean, I got in touch with them regarding mine, and I told them if they ever get in touch with me again, I will have them done for harassment.
Well, I didn't mind them inquiring just the once, but if they were continually ringing and actually harassing, I totally agree with you.
But what it is, Richard, everything's about fear. My Telegram group, Council Tax Refunds, there's about 400 people in the group. Now, in all honesty, Richard, I reckon maybe 10, 15% of, and these are people who've joined the group to actually for me giving them information to reclaim what they'd paid in the past. And I reckon there's only 10% of them people in this group who have stopped paying their council tax. They're still paying.
Yes,
Can I ask you, Richard, are you honest enough for if I ask you, do you pay your council tax?
I do. I'll tell you why, I admit this, because people do ask me, and when I'm at my talks, they say, Richard, you keep having various people on, and I say, yes, I do at the moment. That's not to say I will continue to do this, and the reason is my YouTube channel. I had no intention of it being as big or as popular as it has grown. And we've just seen in the news how Lawrence Fox has just been arrested for saying something, implying something, not actually doing anything, with a tweet on the back of what he did. We've seen Russell Brand being hassled because of alleged things that are going on.
The thought police.
Yeah, the thought police. And it does seem to me people in the public eye. Now, I'm not suggesting for one moment that I am well known or anything like that. However, it does seem to me that people are being made an example of in order to make people more fearful. So if I challenged or whatever, and the local paper got it or the national paper got of it, they could wind a story around it and say, here's a prominent YouTuber growing in popularity who is telling people not to pay and using fear. So for the moment, as much as I vehemently disagree with the system, I am paying that money. I mean, it's illegal for me to pay the money because the money is being used for terrorism.
That's true.
It is actually illegal. I mean, if anything, they should come and arrest me, and I'm not suggesting they do, but they should certainly challenge that I should not, like anybody else, should not be paying it because it is illegal, and the legislation says that. But that's the reason at the moment, and otherwise, I think I would be challenging it. However, I will say this. Let me say this, and this is something I think that people can give some thought to. April the 1st is a few months away, and on the mat will arrive a new statement from the councils all across the country. And I've been talking to a few people like Gavin from Sovereign Empowerment and Sovereign Pete, and it seems to me that is a great time when it's a new year as far as the council tax is concerned, for people between now and then to get themselves the knowledge base, to understand the principle, understand exactly what you've just been saying and others, so that come the 1st of April, they can make up their own mind whether they wish to continue to contribute to terrorism or they want to challenge it. So I'm not saying you mustn't, you shouldn't, and I'm not inciting people to do anything. I'm just saying people can make up their own mind. But can you imagine if you get significant numbers of people thinking that it's not right to pay such a bill?
No obligation, Richard. No obligation.
Because there's no obligation and you're funding terrorism. Now, if you had, say, 50,000 people doing that and rebutting it or not paying it and what have you, you might start to see the system crumble even quicker.
What people don't know, this might be just specific to my council, Tameside Council, 25% of the council tax that they receive goes towards their own pension scheme. Now, I mean, that's ridiculous. If you actually if you have a private pension, your employer contributes as well as you towards that. Now, the council make up money in other ways, mostly unlawful, like through parking and other means. Now, they're raising money. The money that they raise through other means should be paid towards their pension scheme. It shouldn't come out of council tax. That means that 25% of that everyone's paying is not going where it should. But
Yes. Well, I mean, I can't verify that, but we do know that it doesn't go directly to the council anyway. It goes to a governmental pot, as
one of
far as I understand.
one
But
of the biggest cons, Richard, when I got something called a memorandum of entry, which showed how many people were involved in the bulk listing. Now, on my first hearing, now there was 3,678 people in that bulk hearing. They were all charged 85%, £85 each. That that totaled £312,000 for 3 hours. That is basically, it's money for Old Road. It's one case, and they're charging 3,678 people each.
yeah, it's outrageous. Tim, thank you so much for sharing your story and alerting people to the tools. Where is your? We're going to put the link in there, but just if you could tell us what the YouTube channel is called.
Well, it's just if the people type in uh, Tim Davies, that's TIMDAVIES, and all my videos are on there. Basically, I'm actually banned at the moment
Oh, are
until,
they?
until December, Richard.
Oh gosh, that's a long old time. So, and can people get in touch with your Telegram group?
Yeah, that's if they go on search for council tax refunds, and all the videos are linked in there. But also, Richard, there's a lot of good people in this group, people who've got some fantastic information. But when you actually look at sovereign empowerment and a lot of the other peacekeepers, I'm just an ordinary person, but not one single one of these people have told you to claim the money back that you paid historically in the past.
Right. So, well, this is great. It's new information to me, and I'm more than happy to share it. And let's hope people do go and check out your channel. I know you're banned till Christmas, but certainly council tax refunds on Telegram.
Get your direct debit indemnity claims in as soon as possible.
There you go, Tim. Thank you so much. Lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, Andrew,
Thank you.
Richard.
Thank you for sharing the story and getting in touch. And good luck with everything you do.
Okay, that's a lot, Richard.
I will be back with more of my monologues and wonderful guests challenging the system, which is what we like to do. Until next time, from Tim and myself, thank you for watching and goodbye.